In this video, we're going to be taking a look at a custom Padmé sarcophagus made by 2797 Studios, which you see reflected on this sticker banner here. They do have their own website, and you can find them on Instagram. I'll see about trying to link them in the description in case you're interested in checking out any of their products. But I knew when I initially saw this advertised on their Instagram page that this is something I think I should have for my collection. Oftentimes, at least for myself, but I imagine it applies for many others as well, we get hung up on a lot of the Hasbro products, but then we forget about a lot of the 3D printed custom sets that get made by the fans out there. And those sets that never in a million years would we ever imagine Hasbro ever making or getting around to, or even in some cases the 3D printing makers end up doing better than Hasbro in some cases. I know there are 3D printed Mos Eisley cantinas, for instance. Maybe someday someone will make like a Coruscant bar or a nightclub, for instance, but we'll see. I can't say a 3D printed cantina is better or worse than the HasLab project. I don't have one on hand to compare. But the point being is that oftentimes 3D printers do just about as good these days, or even better in some cases, than what the main corporations can do. But in the case of Padmé sarcophagus here, I can't imagine Hasbro would ever get around to making like a Padmé's tomb or anything of that sorts, and which would be a very nice diorama piece, but it's not very, of course, the subject matter and the context behind it, it's not the most, trying to think how to describe it. Not the most incentivized piece to put out there on the market. A lot of people probably look at this and think, oh, how morbid. But for someone that's like me, that's a big fan of Padmé's character and the whole story arc between Padmé and Anakin, and then of course into Vader, and the amount of sorrow he felt during his time of Vader, and of course from the Vader comics, from what I have read of them, it's a subject matter that is very close to me in the Star Wars universe. So not a whole lot I could really say about the sarcophagus itself. We'll just take a small tour of it, see all there is to it, and we'll go from there. Definitely a lot of great photographic potential to have with this set. I'll bring out an action figure of Padmé here. It would be interesting to have like a Padmé's ghost, or maybe if I get good enough at editing, I can somehow make this action figure of Padmé a little more translucent to make it look like her spirit or her ghost is looking over Vader's shoulder, and as he's mourning her loss here. So I would say this is pretty faithful to what we see in the Vader comics. Of course, with this being 3D printed, it's not going to be 100% perfect. There's going to be a lot of edges here that are a little rough, for instance. You kind of see that all throughout here. Maybe someday I'll sand it out or see what I can do. But it's really good. I'm really impressed with this. These guys at 2797 Studios do a really good job. And of course, they have many other dioramas and setups as well, and accessories. A couple that come to mind are the dining room area and Cloud City. And then of course there's Palpatine's office, and there's a couple Mos Eisley scenes, for instance, and even some from the newer media like the Acolyte. And I think they do have some accessories as well, like holocrons and things like that. So definitely would recommend checking them out if you haven't done so. Like I said, I would say that this is a good set, but given the context to it, I think the better way to phrase it is that this is a well-sculpted set. I would say that's faithful to Padmé's likeness on her sarcophagus, and when I'm very fascinated with is that they actually included her baby bump there. So if Vader saw this, he would assume that definitely she must have died before the baby was born. And I'm sure that wouldn't help his emotions any. But it's just interesting attention to detail there. While I'm familiar with the story in the Vader's comics, I'm not sure of the exact details. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it appears in the comics, or if her stomach was flat, for instance, at this point, then maybe it dawned on Vader that, hey, her pregnancy is not reflected in her sarcophagus, and then it makes him wonder or anything like that. But that would be an interesting story arc to explore. And also, you can get this in both Black Series and TVC scale. For me, TVC is the ultimate world building scale, so most diorama pieces I'm going to be getting are always going to be in 3 3/4 inch scale. You can just see the size of it. It's actually a pretty good size. It's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. There's a little bit of a stickiness at the bottom of here. I'm not sure if it was set in something or if that's just part of the plastic. Probably have to give that a wash at some point. And you can take the top of the lid off here. And nothing to see in the inside. I guess if you wanted to put a Padmé action figure in there to kind of simulate her being in her sarcophagus, kind of gives you a perspective of the size of it. But in this case, I want to try and go for a little more lighthearted, humorous setup with this, and I figure we can get the Anakin Vader action figure out here, and just to kind of show off how good the engineering and the articulation has gotten in these action figures in recent years. Let's see here. This open hand like that, you can get him to hold the lid up there like he's popping out, saying some surprise. On the promo photos for this set on their website, they do have it's the Black Series Anakin and Obi-Wan in this case, but they have Anakin doing something like this, and then Obi-Wan doing the face palm and saying, "Oh, like Anakin" again. So I thought that was a very creative thing. So try and reenact that here for TVC a little bit. In fact, I'll just leave them like that. But like I said, very impressed with how the engineering's come along for 3 3/4 inch action figures in recent years too. I mean, the older Anakin action figures you really couldn't get in a pose like that if you wanted to. So it's just neat seeing that now. But not really a whole lot else I could say about this set for now. I would like to make an entire Padmé's tomb at some point. I think that'd be a really nice display piece to have. Not a whole lot of action figures you can put in with it. I suppose you could put in like some Naboo Royal Guards, for instance. Of course, Vader, maybe a Padmé, maybe an Anakin, or even a Jedi like Ahsoka. Like perhaps they're on a mission and they're just stopping by to see Padmé's tomb or anything of that sorts. Or maybe if you're really creative and you have a lot of common characters that you might see on Naboo, perhaps they're doing a tour, Padmé's tomb, and it's open to the public or anything of that sorts. I'm not sure. But definitely a piece I appreciate having in my collection. I'll definitely do some setups and displays utilizing this in the future. Of course, I would like to get some more of the diorama sets that 2797 Studios has. I think it's multiple creators in one, just under that one banner. I think Landspeeder Luke, for instance, designed some of the sets. I'm not exactly sure who designed the sarcophagus here, but I am sure it is noted on the site, or at least it's alluded to in some way, or you can always email them and ask about the history of it. But like I said, these guys do a great job. Really appreciate having this set. Not something that Hasbro is probably ever going to make, so if you really want something like this, this is probably the best chance for it. It is a little pricey, and that's the same for most of the diorama sets, but just something to budget for and keep an eye out for. I'm sure they're always going to be putting more on their site as well, for instance, but like I said, we get caught up sometimes on the Hasbro products that you kind of have to zoom out a little bit and appreciate some of the diorama pieces that get made by the fans themselves. And then of course this really enhances the world building aspect and makes Star Wars action figure collecting that much more fun. But I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this set. Like I said, I'll try and link these guys in the description if you want to check out their site, and I would definitely recommend their site. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your support, and check out the links in the description if you haven't done so already. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.